So when I got to Washington College, I began teaching adaptation, and I was thinking more and more about doing an adaptation of myself here. And as I was looking at what I wanted to adapt, I went back to some of those old scenes that I had been doing off and on for myself over the years of the airfare. So I decided a little over a year ago to bite the bullet, apply for rights. It's especially challenging because Jasper Fforde, the author, has agents both in New York and London. So I had to work through both, figure out who his point person was. And many times it seemed to be dead in the water. And then my friend Susanna Einstein, who I went to college with, who's an editor in New York, actually told me almost in passing that she's friends with his editor. So she was able to grease the wheels, and we then suddenly went from no response to, we think we can do it, yes, you can get the rights. His books are a Valentine to literature. And he takes these characters that many of whom we know from Jane Eyre or Miss Havisham in some other books, and allows us to see them in a different way. In this world, the airfare takes place in an England that's sort of a parallel universe. It's set in the 1980s, and it's an England that is very close to the England we know, but there are some differences. For example, they get around by airships, by zeppelins and dirigibles, not by the kind of the planes we know, nothing supersonic. They've also been, the Crimean War, which in our world only lasted a few years, has been going on for 105 years with them, with Russia. And and literature is the highest, most interesting form of entertainment, bar none. So there are many people who actually are, even more people who are obsessed with literature, people who want to steal literature, hold it ransom. So Thursday Next is actually is a literatech, basically a literature detective. And she goes around and investigates stolen copies or people making counterfeit examples of things. And it's basically what happens when a Dickens novel, Martin Chuzzlewit, disappears. And she realizes early on that this family of half demon, half humans, the Hades family, Styx, Hades, Acheron, Hades, they have captured this novel, and they basically plan to kill off potentially characters and hold this novel hostage. It's up to her to basically save literature from these people, and she discovers that she has relatives who can book jump. If they read a passage out loud of any book, they can jump inside that book. She moves from just being a literature detective, investigating stolen copies of literature, which she's getting very bored with at the beginning of the novel, and then suddenly this very high-profile case leads her through a variety of circumstances to be able to jump into various books, such as Jane Eyre, in order to track down her nemesis, Acheron, Hades, who is threatening to destroy literature and characters as we know it. It's more about kidnapping and holding characters for ransom, and there's even a minor character in a Dickens novel that actually buys it, and whose body is left in the real world to show that he means business, and he can go around and he could start taking people out and holding them for ransom. But he wants power. He's basically, in some ways, a sort of literature terrorist, but he's a former English professor. And and I love English professors, but he is someone who has become very power hungry, and also is Thursday Next former professor. So they have a history going back. It also reminds me of Douglas Adams, who wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, crossed with a little bit of the whimsicalness and the fun of Harry Potter. So he takes these different genres and Lewis Carroll thrown in, and puts you on this ride. And the whole thing is told from the point of view of Thursday Next, who is a smart, complex, funny woman who is dealing with love and literally an ensemble of 10 to 12 actors, men and women, who are going to play everyone else. There are something called bookworms that actually get released into books that start to eat the words, and if that happens and you're inside that book, you start to talk differently. Okay. He is a literature junkie, and he is a literature geek, and he loves all types of literature. I think what he celebrates are the act of reading, whether it's on a tablet or whether it's in a hard copy book. He loves to poke fun of everything. He loves to satirize things. But I think at heart, he's not a satirist that's out to take anything down, but actually to highlight it and to celebrate wonder and imagination. I mean, reading Jasper Fforde makes you realize how much power you have as a reader and makes you think about about perspective, point of view, what happens to those minor characters, right? When you've moved on to someone else, what is the maid doing? What is someone who comes on for one scene? But I was expecting more from the author in terms of there must be at least 90% of the novel on stage, or you're not allowed to cut certain characters, or any of that. And that I thought at first maybe there was a mistake or an email I had missed, but when we went back and confirmed, they said no, he's allowing carte blanche. What's exciting to me about that is that sense of freedom allows, then when he was able to come and see it at the end of the month, then hopefully he and I can have a really rich conversation.